Let's see those backlogs. This week on Gamers Said, we want to know what 2024 games you didn't finish yet. Up first is Anderscott, who says, Avatar for me. I don't know why I thought it'd be anything other than Far Cry with big blue cat people, but it was. And I just can't play through any game with the Ubisoft formula anymore. Anderscott, that's one heck of an answer. And before anyone chimes in, yes, I am aware Avatar Frontiers of Pandora was released in 2023. In fact, plenty of these answers are all over the place. But you know what? I'm good with it. So long as it's a game that you couldn't finish in 2024. Good. Great. As for Avatar, yeah, it's been an oddly quiet year for this game, despite some new storyline DLC dropping over the past 12 months. And after the Secrets of the Spires arrived last fall, the overall roadmap for Frontiers of Pandora has come to a rather apathetic end. Now please sound off in the comments if I'm dead wrong here, but I never hear anyone even mention this game anymore. So if you're a fan, or even if you just know a fan, let me know. As for the Ubisoft formula, it's a feature, not a bug. I think everyone gets burnt out on game design if they've seen enough of it, and given the scope of many Ubisoft games, you're bound to get overexposed to an open-world map brimming with different side quests. It's just the kind of games they like to make. Up next is Jeremy, who says, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Finished the Vatican and was already getting bored, so I deleted it. Was a good thing it was free. Jeremy, I know your answer was overall pretty relaxed, but dude, this is a spicy comment. But we gotta acknowledge the elephant in the room, and no, I'm not talking about the Indiana Jones game. Let's be honest, Xbox Game Pass is one of the greatest luxuries ever bequeathed to the humble gamer. Microsoft gave up on the traditional methods and decided to firehose almost every single exclusive into their subscription service. Unfortunately, that also has had an effect on some players' habits. Whereas before smaller games were getting more attention for being on Game Pass, now some players are picking and choosing when to subscribe based on those major exclusives. Frankly, it's too early, too centralized, and Microsoft isn't sharing any of the data, but just talking casually, the single biggest exclusive on all of Xbox this year being treated like some sort of neat side feature, well, the industry certainly has changed. Now, I for one can't wait for the Great Circle to come to PlayStation 5 just because I think it'll get more consideration there. I mean, I assume it will. Can't do any worse than Dial of Destiny at the box office. We've got a brand new Indiana Jones adventure from the developers of Wolfenstein. Yeah, Machine Games. And it's good. Well, at least I think so. Up next is Anakin, who says, Rise of the Ronin. It's a good game, don't get me wrong. I got about 60% through the story before getting distracted by a new job. Definitely one I'm going to go back to, however. The combat is fun and challenging, and while the different maps aren't very diverse, they're fun to explore. Anakin, I got a good chuckle out of this answer because I kept thinking, there's no job system in Rise of the Ronin, before realizing you meant job, as in earning a living. You know, that annoying thing what interrupts your game time. Who knows what games you would actually complete if you didn't have to go to work. But at the same time, it sounds like Rise of the Ronin gave you exactly what you were looking for. An enjoyable Souls-like time sink, or at least that's what I would call it. And here's the odd part. Or perhaps this is totally subjective, so sound off in the comments if you relate. Sometimes you just want that 8 out of 10 game that you can unwind with after work. It's easy to dunk on a game for missing this or that feature, but then there's the alternative that's just enough and meets the player where they are. If Rise of the Ronin had been anything more dense, I think it would have lost a lot of its charm. Up next is ISO, who says, believe it or not, Resident Evil 2 Remake. I got to Ada and stopped. To be honest, it's just roaming the police station. Kinda boring after some time. ISO, as a Resident Evil fan, that hurts. But you're not wrong. Look, video game design has changed a lot since Resident Evil 2 first launched in 1998, and the 2019 remake, for as wonderful as it is for diehards, can be a bit underwhelming for other players. Not even newcomers, there's old heads out there that never cared for Resident Evil 2's layout and weren't that impressed by the remake. Now for me, as a bit of a research junkie, the prospect of running into strange rooms and clicking on each and everything to read a bit of text or pick up a useful puzzle piece, well, that's my catnip. But in 2025, not everyone is going to find that cute. Looking for crazy components to unlock a statue? I get it. Which is why I'm going to recommend you play it again, but this time with a guide. It'll help you appreciate it. Resident Evil is boilerplate guide-driven design that we saw all over Japan in the 80s and 90s. So give it a second shot with a guide and let me know if that changes your mind. Up next is Scrillz, who says, I never finished Elden Ring and the DLC. The game is too hard for me for some reason. It's okay, I'm gonna do a backlog challenge and finish the whole game one day. LOL. Scrillz Scrillz, I believe you mean the Game of the Year nominated DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree. Yes, I read the comments, and man, people were not happy about that one. And I'm gonna cut you some slack, because Elden Ring is just a really hard game. It's supposed to be, like how Resident Evil is supposed to be scary, or how Mario Party is supposed to destroy friendships. It's built right into the design. All kidding aside, yes, you're meant to die a lot. But if we're being totally honest here, I never finished Elden Ring either. I dropped Elden Ring in June of 23 because Final Fantasy 16 came out. And at the time I felt kind of bad about it, but man, I actually really love Final Fantasy 16. Well, most of it. The story kind of falls off a cliff after a certain point, but those first 10 hours or so were magic. So I'm not waving my finger either. One day, Elden Ring, one day. Up next is Jefferson, who says, it's getting increasingly difficult to find a game that has good enough writing and design to bother playing it through to the end. I got through Dragon's Dogma, but there are a number of games that I didn't even finish the demo for. It's actually a more reasonably straightforward question asking what games I managed to get through. Elden Ring DLC, Dragon's Dogma 2, and Space Marine 2. Most everything else was super preachy and heavy-handed or a game design nightmare. Ashurrichan also chimes in saying, most of them. I'm still not finished most games from 23 either. Gaming isn't the same as it used to be. Also chiming in is JHK. When I check the Steam user achievements after a playthrough, I usually find that less than a third of people usually get to an end. Sometimes if the game is not very popular, the percentage drops. People can't be asked to even play the games they bought. Makes me a grumpy old fella. Really interesting answers from JHK, Ashurrichan, and Jefferson. We'll come back to those other games, but come on, I'm not going to miss my chance to discuss Space Marine 2. Now, when this game was first announced, I was surprised. Video games come and go, including whole studios like THQ and the first Space Marine. But somehow we not only got a sequel, it was great. Props to the multiplayer, by the way. Can't wait to see how that roadmap pans out. But Jefferson, I'm not going to ignore your final comments, because they're really important. Video games have absolutely evolved over the past 10 years. If you're closing games like Shadow of the Erdtree and Dragon's Dogma 2, I'm preaching to the choir. You play a ton of games, and you play a ton of good games. But here's the thing, and take it from someone who has to start a lot of new save files. Most games these days start really slow, like way slower than you would ever imagine. Players are pretty adaptable to what sort of games are around, so long as their core gameplay is good. Everything else is an acquired taste. Street Fighter 2, Tetris, PUBG, just hurry up and get to the game part of the game. That's what most people like. But by that same metric, we would have to say goodbye to The Last of Us and the recent God of War. Really good games with really great gameplay, but yes, you had to watch hours of cutscenes. It's a debate as old as Hideo Kojima. So what's the right way? Well, dang, I don't know what's the right way to TV or movie. Mediums deserve genres, but the player may deserve a heads up on what they're about to play. When it comes to television, we know there's a difference between drama and sitcom, even if you like them both. And like JHK says, age and experience can be a burden when it comes to hobbies, but it's also worth remembering that appetite is the best spice, and distance makes the heart grow fonder. Breaking from your usual play habits can be just the thing to make games more interesting. And hopefully you'll keep watching Game Rant, because we're always working to introduce viewers to new games. Stick around and keep telling us what games you're enjoying. You might have to go off the beaten path, but I promise, there's something brand new out there just for you. And hopefully we're bringing those games to your attention. Up next is Darth, who says, I never finished both The Witcher 3 and Red Dead Redemption 2. I wandered and got distracted, then forgot what I was supposed to do and forgot the story, and so I abandoned the games. You know what, Darth? I know exactly what you mean. And it's kind of funny because it's for totally different reasons. Now, I love CD Projekt Red, and I think The Witcher 3 is a great game. But yeah, it challenged them in some new ways, like general world map design and user interface in an HD setting. And I think they did a much better job in Cyberpunk 2077. Meanwhile, Red Dead Redemption 2 and Rockstar, well, they know better, but they just want to be so gosh darn rustic about it. We're talking about a team that made Grand Theft Auto and borrowed liberally from other open world games. If they wanted to make it easy, they could. Up next is Sal, who says, I enjoyed Dragon's Dogma 2, then all of a sudden the game got ridiculously hard. I got so aggravated I stopped playing it. Now, Sal, I know you didn't mean to, but this comment just made every game designer break out in a sweat. The goal of game creation beyond cool mechanics is engaging a player with a breadcrumb trail of fun moments. And one of the oldest concepts is difficulty spikes. It's a big no-no. But I think it's fair to say Dragon's Dogma 2 is meant to challenge the player after a certain point. But you're not the only person to shout out issues with Dragon's Dogma 2. On the other hand, I really like it. Capcom builds games that zig when you expect them to zag. The combat and fast travel, or lack thereof, is antithetical to traditional fantasy games. And frankly, it's that sort of antagonistic design that makes it more interesting for some and discouraging for others. Well, now I suppose it's that time where I should give my own answer. And this one here is a real shame. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth continues the trend of the Yakuza series becoming more popular in the West, and one of my favorite franchises that I've been playing since day one. It feels a little weird to be left out, but the problem is there's this side game that's called The Man Who Erased His Name, and I keep meaning to play that game first. How important is it to the overall story? Probably not that much. But whatever, it doesn't matter. If it's 2024, 2025, or 2026, I'm going to be playing all of the Like a Dragon games. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of Gamers Said. How about letting us know what games you didn't finish in 2024 in the comments below? Keep clicking around here on Game Rants, and we'll see you next time.